We can say conservatively that if we add all the years of struggle in this room, we got more than 200 years, so that's pretty cool. So I'm going to talk about gentrification, and I'm going to try and not be too weedsy and technical about it. Gentrification is a loaded term without an agreed upon or universally recognized definition. What's clear to all observers is that it's a process that's been relatively ongoing for 30 or so years, taking place in urban areas all over the global north, and involving increased concentration of high-end commercial real estate, luxury housing, and development. Depending on your position in life and the language you use to describe the world around you, gentrification might have a positive connotation. If you're a real estate developer, politician, or financier, you might just perk up when you hear the word gentrification. To describe this process, you might use a string of positive adjectives, action verbs, and catchy phrases, such as urban renewal, urban transformation, community revitalization, community redevelopment. For extra points, you can mix and match those into an almost infinite string of combinations. So instead, you get community redevelopment, or you get urban redevelopment, and so on and so on. And if you really want to make that paper, just tell people it's emerging. Oh, this restaurant scene in East Harlem, the emerging restaurant scene, the tacos, they're to die for. Whole communities, they just emerge out of nowhere. Williamsburg didn't even exist until 2008, just emerged. But still, to many, to the marginalized, the oppressed, the black, the brown, to the single-parent family, to the undocumented, to the working poor, to the elderly, to the disabled, the LGBTQ, hell, to anyone with a dream that bought their ass a Greyhound bus ticket and went to a big city. These people know their community isn't being revitalized for them. They know when they hear their communities being transformed, that might mean they're being transformed from poor to homeless. That the already homeless go from eviction to forced removal by the police because they're an eyesore. They know that gentrification means displacement, intimidation, and violence. Not only the criminalization of poverty, but the criminalization of whole communities, as we saw just a few weeks ago with the police murder of Sahid Vassal. And that is where our good friend Karl Marx comes in. Happy birthday, Karl. Because what Marx gave us was a vocabulary and a process to describe the world that we live in, not just how we got here, but where we're going. We know that we didn't get here by accident. We know this is the logical outcome of a society that organizes basic human needs around a system of private property where the main goal is the accumulation of wealth. A system that is by and large illogical, that in the face of shrinking wages and rising costs of living chooses to produce luxury housing, much of which is unoccupied. Because at the end of the day, gentrification isn't about supply and demand. It's about class struggle. It's about surplus capital derived from the surplus wages of working people. It's an extension of the parasitic vampire nature of capitalism, a way for an international capitalist class to invest their money and ensure that the returns on their investments stay in their pockets and aren't used to build schools or hospitals or anything else that might help poor and working people. It's a way for capitalists to seize property in areas that have already been ravaged by a combination of deindustrialization and state-sponsored white flight. And practically speaking, it functions as a way of disciplining already oppressed people, of dispersing and dislocating people in such a way to keep them from acting collectively. We need to keep in mind that this process isn't just happening here in New York. It's happening nationally in places like Philadelphia, Jackson, Kansas City, Los Angeles, San Francisco, internationally in places like Vancouver, Toronto, Paris, Berlin. Regionally, in varying degrees, there already exist incredible sustained anti-gentrification movements, mixed with both success and failures. And what we need to do is connect these groups through an international movement that doesn't just seek to mitigate the effects of capitalism, but highlights those contradictions and brings with it a radical new vision of a new kind of world. We need international class solidarity. We need to build a workers' world.